Hello there, this is John V, Software Evangelist at Jscape, and I'm back for another video tutorial. Today I'm going to show you how to pull files automatically from a remote host with no file transfer service. I was inspired to create this video after I encountered a question on our help desk. Someone asked what we would recommend if they wanted to pull files from a host running in the cloud onto another host that was running on-premise. They didn't want something fancy because that's all they really wanted. A mechanism that could simply pull files from one point to another. They didn't need multi-protocol support, they didn't need a powerful automation enabling tool, they didn't even want the ability to create several user accounts. So obviously Jscape MFT server was going to be an overkill. In cases like this, where you just want to simply push or pull files, perhaps on a predefined schedule, meaning it had to be automated but nothing else, what you simply need is something like MFT Synchronizer on one end and MFT Synchronizer agent on the other end. We already introduced MFT Synchronizer and some use cases in the video What is MFT Synchronizer, so I suggest you watch that first if you haven't yet. I'll provide a link to that somewhere in the post, or if you're watching this on YouTube, then in the description. Or it's just gonna pop up there in the right hand corner of your screen. So first things first, I'll assume you've already installed MFT Synchronizer on one end, the end that's going to be pulling files, and that you've also installed MFT Synchronizer agent on the other end, the end that's where MFT Synchronizer is going to be pulling files from. If you haven't done those yet, we've already outlined the steps to do those in two separate videos. How to install MFT Synchronizer and how to install MFT Synchronizer agent. Again, you'll find links to those in the post. So first step is to go to MFT Synchronizer. Let's log in here. Let's check if the MFT Synchronizer agent is running. And the agent is detected. And so the service is running, and here's our agent. The next step is to create an account. An account in the context of MFT Synchronizer can be an account on a remote SFTP server, or an account on an FTP server, and so on. But like we said earlier, we don't have those. What we do have is an agent running on a remote host. Well, we can also create an MFT Synchronizer account for that. So let's do that now. Let's go to Accounts, and then add an account. And among the protocol, as you can see, MFT Synchronizer supports multiple protocols for it to connect to remote file transfer services. But for now, let's just choose agent. And let's just call this Linux agent account. And we can test if we can make connection to that remote host that's running the agent. Okay, so we can connect to the remote host that's running the agent. Let's now add this account. Now that we've added the account, the next step is to create a synchronization. A synchronization object can be used to synchronize two folders on two separate hosts, or to simply push or pull files between those two folders. To create a synchronization, just click the Add button. Then we can add a name, let's say pull files. Before we proceed, let me explain what account A and account B stand for. Account A is where you are synchronizing from, or in our case, where we are pulling files from. If the host where MFT Synchronizer is installed will act as your source, then you should leave the account A checkbox unchecked. Otherwise, if some account is your source, then you should check it. In our case, because our source is an account, more specifically an agent running on a remote host, then we will have to check this. Account B, on the other hand, is where you are synchronizing to, or the destination. Or in our case, where we will be placing the files we pull from A. So similar to what you're supposed to do in account A, if the host where MFT Synchronizer is installed will act as your destination, then you should leave the account B checkbox unchecked. Otherwise, if some account is your destination, then you should check it. In our case, because our destination happens to be the host where MFT Synchronizer is installed, then we need to leave the account B checkbox unchecked. So let's take account A and then select the account we created earlier. And then we need to specify a relative path. Basically, this path should be a path relative to the account specified. In our case, because we're just going to pull files from our agent's root path on our Linux machine, we can just leave the / as is. For account B, let's leave this unchecked. And because that means the host where MFT Synchronizer is installed will be the destination, we need to specify an absolute path on the host. So let's navigate here and select our destination path. So if we navigate to that path, you'll notice that there are no files here yet. This folder is empty. Let's now move on to the copy condition. This is the condition MFT Synchronizer will use to determine when to start copying files. So you can use different time, which copies files when the timestamp on A is different from the one on B, different size, which copies files when the size on A is different from the one on B, and different content, which copies files when the content on A is different from the one on B. Note that different time and different size conditions process relatively faster than different content, but it really depends on how you want to do it. But for the purpose of this example, let's just choose different content. Latency period means that if you set a value here, files on A that are modified within the specified latency period will not be synchronized. That means if someone is modifying, if something or someone is modifying the files on the source, then you wouldn't want to copy those files yet. Mode refers to the modes of synchronization. So mirror means new and modified files from A are copied to B, while redundant files in B will be deleted. Synchronize means new and modified files from both paths are copied to each other. Backup means all files from A are simply copied to B. And contribute means new and modified files from A are copied to B. So in our case, let's choose mirror. We don't want to include any subdirectories, so let's just leave this unchecked. Now if you notice, we can schedule a synchronization. So we can schedule when we would like to pull files from a remote host. If you want this to happen, if you want to pull files just once, then you just click this. But if you want to pull files every, let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, every some number of minutes, then you just choose minutely every whatever you set here. If you want to pull files every some number of hours, then you choose hourly. Or if you want to pull files at a certain time of day, every day, then you choose this, and so on. So what we're gonna do is let's just pull files. Let's just do this once for now, and let's set this time is 2:42 p.m. so let's set this at 3 o'clock p.m. so let's say 1500 hours. Alright, once at October 18, that's there, and at 1500 hours. Alright, so let's click add, start. Okay, and so nothing's going to be pulled at this point yet. So let's just check here. There are no files yet. And let me now bring you to our source host. So if you've watched the video how to install MFT Synchronizer agent on Linux, you'll know that our MFT Synchronizer agent root path is this directory, files to sync, right now. So let's go to cd files, and right now there are no files yet, so let's just copy from some files. Let's copy all these files to files to sync. So you could imagine there are various processes in the source side that are copying files or moving files into this files to sync directory, which happens to be the root path of our agent. So let's just imagine we're putting files in there, and so we now have files on our agent's root path, and when it's now 1500 hours, these files are gonna be pulled from here and brought into this folder. So that's gonna take some time, so let's take a break and we get back to that when the clock strikes 3 p.m. So we're back. We're a bit late, but if you check here on the recent tab, you'll see that sometime after 3 p.m. a synchronization took place and it completed successfully. And if you verify here, there you have it. So as you can see, files were successfully pulled from our remote host at 3 p.m. So now you know how to set up MFT Synchronizer to pull files automatically from a remote Linux host with no file transfer service.